Hello, I'm Troy. This is Marks on TV, and today I'm talking about the first two episodes of Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Spoilers ahead, so be wary. Before we begin, please consider liking the video, leaving a comment about your opinions on the most expensive television show in history, and subscribing to the channel. Now, on with the show. Now to my opinions. I'm going to try my best to mix up the good and the bad here because there's a mixed bag of both. Positive. The scenery is beautiful. The CGI mostly looks good. So far, it's much better than the Hobbit films. The costumes are great. The look of everything is pretty well done. Cosmetically, the show is well above average. I'd put it above the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon slightly. Also, I like the looks of the Harfoots, how they live in the wild and on the run, and they definitely look like it. They almost look like gypsies. On the flip side, as a negative, I'm not down with the way the elves look. In every other iteration of elves, be it the Peter Jackson films, cartoon representations, or in the books themselves, elves are tall and beautiful with long hair. In this show, however, the only real way to tell that if somebody is an elf is just that they have pointy ears. Whoop-de-doo. Another positive is I feel that the show is having a lot going on. Not everyone enjoyed the pacing, but I kinda did. There's not a ton of action, that's for sure, but what action there is fairly well placed. There's more action than the House of the Dragon, at least. We skip around to the different stories well, and it doesn't feel too awkward for me. Again, to compare it to House of the Dragon, that show has a lot of sitting and talking and politicking. This show has a lot of talking, but there's also tension and action mixed in. To be honest, though, I hope that it picks up more in the next 6 episodes. Another negative for me, however, is how many liberties they've taken with the lore. The show creators honestly talk out of both sides of their mouths leading up to this, and that's what turned a lot of fans off. I'm a fan of The Hobbit and the 3 Lord of the Rings books. I've read about a third of the Silmarillion, and I've read none of the appendices, which is what the show is based on, supposedly, but I have educated myself enough in it to know this ain't right. I get that Amazon only has the rights to the appendices, so some liberties will have to be taken. But don't sit there and tell us the show will be true to the source material, and then turn around and say, this is our story, and we're telling it now. And this is Tolkien for the modern age, and then get mad when fans ain't digging it. I can enjoy this show only by mostly disconnecting myself from the knowledge of Tolkien and looking at this purely as fan fiction. Hobbits/Harfoots are not supposed to be there, wizards are not supposed to be there, and there are quite a few other things that are big-time lore breakers. 2 final positives I have for this show is that I think most of the actors are good or great. Even when given bad dialogue, they manage to do well with it. And second, I really like seeing more of the dwarves. All we saw of them in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings was long after the falls of their kingdoms, so their mountains were empty and run down, and their mines were graveyards. Here, we see thriving kingdoms and civilizations, a very cool aspect of working on a prequel. My final negative is on the flip side of that. As I said, most of the actors are great. I can't stand Galadriel. The actress was fine, but the character of Galadriel is absolutely awful. I loved her character in The Lord of the Rings. She was an elegant, strong, powerful, sorceress, elven lady. She could see what was, what is, and what will be. She could sense many things across Middle-earth and within people, but what she was not was a warrior. Not only in the Rings of Power is she some bloodthirsty warrior out for vengeance, but she's also a know-it-all and bossy without any regard for others. She's not diplomatic, she's always angry, and she's nothing like the character that J.R.R. Tolkien created. I could live with most other things in the series that I'm not too fond of and just overlook them, but this sucks. The writing for Galadriel is complete garbage, from her actions to her dialogue. You don't even have to be a fan of the books or the lore. If you've just seen the Peter Jackson films, this character choice will have you scratching your head. Who else is watching? Please leave a like, a comment, please consider subscribing to the channel, and share this around with everyone you know. I've been Troy, and thanks for joining me today on Marks on TV.